A man in exile, pacing around an island no one cares about, wearing full military uniform to feed chickens. That's Napoleon on Elba, Europe's most dramatic retiree. He's supposed to be done. Game over. Roll credits. But while kings and diplomats celebrate, Napoleon's over there plotting season 2. You can almost hear his inner monologue. They miss me. They just don't know it yet. And then, he does it. He actually comes back, marching through France like he just respawned with DLC confidence. This isn't just history. It's the world's most unhinged comeback tour. Because when a man like Napoleon says, "I'm back," the universe really should have replied, "Please, don't." Let's rewind. It's 1814. France is done. Burnt out. Like, final season of a show that should be ended 2 seasons ago. Done. After a decade of wars, Europe is tired of Napoleon's whole world domination but make it fashionable vibe. They finally beat him, kicked him out, exiled him to Elba, a Mediterranean island roughly the size of a mid-tier theme park. The new king, Louis XIII, waddles into Paris like, "All right, peasants, let's bring back the monarchy, no hard feelings." But here's the problem. Everyone hates Louis XIII. The nobles think he's boring, the soldiers miss the glory days, and the regular people. They just want someone who isn't shaped like a pudding and allergic to charisma. Meanwhile, on Elba, Napoleon is thriving. He's technically the ruler of the island, so he immediately starts doing Napoleon things. Redesigning the economy, reforming agriculture, building roads. Because apparently, even in exile, this man can't take a chill pill. You'd think he'd be miserable, but no, he's hosting parades, inspecting cannons, and giving motivational speeches to farmers. He's basically turned exile into a productivity retreat. But deep down, he's boiling. He's hearing rumors. France is restless. His old soldiers are disillusioned. The king's eating too much brie. The empire may be gone, but the legend, still very much alive. And that's when the comeback plan starts forming. Imagine him pacing in his little Elban palace, muttering like a 19th century Tony Stark. "They think I'm finished? Watch this." By February 1815, he's done pretending to be an island mayor. He gathers a few hundred loyal soldiers, loads them on boats, and sails straight for France. It's bold, it's stupid, it's so very Napoleon. He lands near Cannes, steps onto the beach, and basically says, "Surprise, idiots, I'm back." The French army sent to arrest him just joins him. No shots fired, just pure charisma. One soldier famously shouted, "Vive l'Empereur," and that was it. France collectively decided, yeah, let's do Empire 2.0. Within days, Napoleon's marching north, gathering supporters like a glitching boss fight that just keeps leveling up. Every town he passes flips from "down with the tyrant" to "we missed you, king." It's the ultimate PR turnaround. By the time he reaches Paris, Louis XIV has already fled, probably tripping over his own monarchy on the way out. Napoleon enters the city to roaring crowds, music, banners, the works. He's not just back, he's trending. But here's where the psychology kicks in. This isn't just politics, it's ego, redemption, obsession. He's not trying to save France. He's trying to prove France still needs him. And that's a dangerous kind of motivation. By the time Napoleon settles back onto his shiny Parisian throne, one thing's clear. The comeback worked too well. The people are cheering, the flags are waving, and the newspapers are screaming, "He's back, baby." But outside France, every European monarch just spat out their champagne. In Vienna, the Congress of Europe, that fancy post-war peace party, suddenly becomes a group chat meltdown. Britain's typing, Prussia's typing, Russia's typing in all caps. The meme is simple. Didn't we just beat this guy? So while Napoleon's planning speeches and polishing medals, half of Europe's armies start marching toward France like it's season 2, the revenge. But Napoleon's still got that swagger. He dusts off his old maps, cracks his knuckles, and says, "We'll strike first. Belgium. Easy win. Show them I've still got it." Classic Napoleon. When the entire continent unites against him, his instinct is, "Yeah, let's do one more round." So he builds an army again. Fast. Veterans return, drums echo through the fields, the tricolour waves once more. It's nostalgic, grand, heroic, like watching your favourite rock band reunite for one last tour, except this tour ends in Waterloo instead of Wembley. But before the cannon smoke, there's this weird undertone. His soldiers still love him, but there's hesitation now. They're older, tired. France itself feels tired, and Napoleon, for all his charisma, is haunted. He can't stop replaying his last fall in his head. He's acting like a man who knows the encore might kill him. Still, he's Napoleon. He steps into the saddle, and the crowd roars like it's 1805 again. It's intoxicating. You can almost hear the voice in his head. One last masterpiece, one more victory, then I'll rest. June 18th, 1815. Waterloo. Rain-soaked fields, mud thick as regret. The French army is in position. The British under Wellington are across the ridge, and the Prussians are marching in from the east. Perfect setup for chaos. Napoleon wakes up late, because of course he does, and decides to delay the attack till the ground dries. Big mistake. By the time he starts, the British are dug in, the mud's still a swamp, and the Prussians are about to crash the party. It's like watching a chess player suddenly forget which piece moves where. Every decision's a beat too late. Cavalry charges too soon. Infantry too far. And Napoleon, he's pacing, furious, drenched, shouting orders that the storm swallows whole. It's tragic, but it's also kind of poetic. The man who once moved armies like chess pieces is now stuck in a muddy board game run by chaos. His pawns slip, his knights drown, and his queen, gone before she even moves. At one point, he orders a cavalry charge without infantry support. His general hesitates. "Sire, should we wait?" Napoleon's like, "No, they'll run." Spoiler, they didn't. It's like betting your life savings on a horse because it has good vibes. By the afternoon, the British lines still hold, and then, as if on cue, the Prussians arrive. Tens of thousands of fresh troops storm the field from the east. Napoleon turns, sees the black flags on the horizon, and for a split second, that invincible look cracks. He realizes it's over. The battlefield descends into panic. The Imperial Guard makes its last desperate stand. They shout, "The Guard dies, but does not surrender." A noble line, historically questionable, but cinematic gold. And as the smoke clears, the Emperor of France is just standing there, staring at the ruin of his own legend. Rain falling, mud sucking at his boots, no orchestra, no crown, just silence. He flees, again. Paris collapses into confusion. The newspapers flip from "he's back" to "we never liked him anyway." King Louis XIV is escorted back like the awkward sequel nobody asked for. Napoleon tries to bargain, tries to rally, but this time, there's no magic left. No soldiers waiting to flip sides. No myth to resurrect. He's just a man out of time, the ghost of his own story. And in a final act of cosmic irony, he surrenders, not to a king, not to an army, but to the British Navy, the very people he once tried to starve into submission. They pack him off to St. Helena, a volcanic rock in the middle of nowhere. His new empire is 6 miles wide, with goats for citizens and clouds for company. He spends his final years walking in circles, replaying battles, dictating memoirs, rewriting history in his head. Sometimes he laughs about it, sometimes he rants. Mostly, he just thinks. And that's the comedy of it all. Napoleon, the master strategist, outwitted not by generals, but by his own need for another victory. He could have lived as a hero, but he needed to prove he was still the hero. He could command Europe, but not himself. It's like the ultimate gamer who wins every campaign, then hits New Game Plus, and loses to the tutorial boss. But there's a strange beauty in that failure. He knew exactly what he was risking, and did it anyway. Because deep down, he wasn't chasing power anymore. He was chasing purpose, the adrenaline, the applause, the feeling of being Napoleon. And so ends the comeback. Not with fireworks, but with irony. A man who conquered nations undone by one rainy day, one stubborn ego, and one too many encore performances. As they say in France, he came, he saw, he came back, and then he really shouldn't have. So that's how it ends. Not with thunderous applause, but with a French guy arguing with seagulls on a rock. Napoleon's comeback lasted exactly 100 days. That's shorter than some Netflix shows that also go downhill after episode 3. And yet, you can't help but admire it, can you? The audacity, the pure delusional confidence. He looked at a continent that had already kicked him out once and said, "Yeah, I can fix this. That's not military genius, that's main character syndrome on steroids." But here's the thing. Under all the ego and chaos, there's something weirdly human about it. Every one of us at some point has tried to resurrect something that should have stayed dead. A failed idea, a bad relationship, that haircut from 2014. Napoleon just did it with artillery. His comeback wasn't logical, it was emotional. He wasn't chasing victory, he was chasing momentum. Because for him, standing still felt worse than defeat. The silence after the cannons, unbearable. He needed noise, purpose, the illusion of control. And that's where the psychology gets fascinating. Napoleon didn't just want to win, he wanted to matter. Even on Elba, surrounded by chickens and exile paperwork, he was still building forts. Because when your entire identity is built on conquest, peace doesn't feel like peace. It feels like punishment. It's ironic. The man who rewrote Europe couldn't rewrite himself. He conquered kingdoms, but never mastered boredom. He could outthink any enemy, except time. And maybe that's the tragedy of ambition. It doesn't know when to stop. It keeps whispering. Just one more battle, one more empire, one more chance to prove you're still you. But history doesn't give you one more. It gives you St. Helena, a reminder that every comeback has an expiration date. No matter how brilliant, how bold, or how delusional you are, eventually the world moves on, and you're left pacing your tiny island, wondering if glory was ever worth the hangover. Still, let's be honest. Would we even remember Napoleon if he'd just stayed on Elba, retired quietly, opened a vineyard, maybe started a podcast? Of course not. He had to fall spectacularly for the legend to stick, because history doesn't love balance, it loves drama. In the end, Napoleon didn't lose to other armies. He lost to math and the weather app. Too much mud, not enough time, and a fatal allergy to moderation. But hey, if you ever feel like your big plans are falling apart, just remember, at least you didn't invade Russia or pick a fight with literally everyone at once. Perspective helps, and maybe that's the final laugh here. Napoleon's 100 days remind us that genius and insanity often share a bunk bed, and history is just the roommate taking notes. He came back to reclaim his crown, and instead he claimed immortality. Not in victory, but in irony. He didn't conquer the world, he conquered the imagination. And speaking of imagination, wait till you see what came after him. A century of chaos, crowns and copycats, all chasing the ghost of a man who refused to stay defeated. This was the psychology of his comeback at 100 days.